All right, so we just left off, if you wasn't here. If you haven't been here, I apologize. I'm not going to explain the last 6 chapters to you. But in Esther, quick rundown. She is in the king's palace. She is the queen now. Her cousin Mordecai has made an enemy out of Haman, which is the king's second-hand man. And because of this, Haman has got all the Jews on pretty much a kill list where they're going to kill all of them in one day. And Haman still cannot stand Esther's cousin. And he just had a 75-foot gallows built for him to be hung on. And that is where we're at. And this all happened very quickly. So, in chapter 6, that night sleep escaped the king, so he ordered the book recording daily events to be brought and read to the king. They found the written report on how Mordecai had informed on Bigthana and Teresh. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but had 2 of the king's eunuchs who had guarded the entrance when they planned to assassinate King Ahasuerus. The king inquired, what honor and special recognition have been given to Mordecai for this act? So Mordecai caught those 2 guys, that was 2 chapters ago, I think, who was planning to assassinate the king, and they just kind of rolled over it and didn't do anything. The king couldn't sleep one night. I suppose he thought there ain't nothing more boring than work, so I might as well get read to, and that'll put me to sleep. And he finds that they had done nothing for him. Or I didn't read that, sorry. The king's personal attendants replied, nothing has been done for him. So there you go. Verse 4, the king asked, who is in the court now? Haman was just entering the outer court of the palace to ask the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. So they hear someone coming, it's Haman. Haman is on his way to ask the king, hey, you know that Mordecai guy, can we go ahead and just hang him on these 75-foot gallows they're building outside? As the king is also thinking, man, what can I do for that Mordecai guy since he saved my life? So there's a little bit of cross connections happening there. In verse 5, the king, verse 6, sorry. Have him enter, the king ordered. Haman entered, and the king asked him, what should be done for a man the king wants to honor? Haman thought to himself, who is it the king would want to honor more than me? So we all know Haman had a chip on his shoulder across these things, and he thought he was something else and thought he should be honored. And so he thought the king was going to honor him more than he already has. And this is going to backfire big time, because since Haman thinks he's going to answer he's thinking here, if I tell the king something really awesome, I'm going to get it. Whenever the king is actually thinking about Haman's pretty much enemy. I mean, his number 1 guy he wants to get rid of here. So verse 8, Haman answers, have them bring a royal garment that the king himself has worn, and a horse that the king himself has ridden, which has a royal crown on its head. Put the garment and the horse under the charge of one of the king's most noble officials. Have them clothe the man the king wants to honor, parade him on a horse through the city square, and proclaim before him that is what is done for the man the king wants to honor. This is what is done for the king. The man. Sorry, I read that totally backwards. So he is really amped up this reward. I mean, he's wearing royal clothing, which back then, I mean, you think of now, that doesn't make much sense to us, because the president, whoop-de-doo, I got to wear a suit. But royal clothing would have been worth way more back then. There would have been royal colors, brighter clothing would cost more money. The royalty would have wore it. Purple was very expensive back then. That was the royal color. One of the only things I can tell you from high school history, don't Pay attention to history, don't be me. But one of the only things I can tell you in history is I learned why purple was worth so much. And the purple dye came out of a snail, that they'd have to harvest these snails. And it took 60,000 snails to make 1 pound of dye. So I guess back when you could be a professional snail harvester, get you some purple. And so it would have been very bright clothing. He wants him to be paraded around by a high official of the king. And he thinks, man, this is going to be great. Bad luck for Haman, because he is the highest official of the kings. So in verse 10, the king told Haman, hurry and do just as you propose. Take garments and a horse for Mordecai the Jew, who is sitting at the king's gate. Do not leave out anything you have suggested. I would love to see the look on Haman's face, unless he was really good at hiding it, thinking, I'm going to get all this great stuff, and then actually we're giving it to your enemy, and you're going to be the one parading your enemy around on a horse, saying, this is the guy that the king loves and honors. It would be absolutely humiliating.
I can just see that his jaw is like the Looney Tunes, just down on the floor.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, just think of someone you don't really like, and someone asking what kind of plan you could have to help them out, and you don't know them, and you give them something great. But worse, because I hope there's no one out there who you guys planned on hanging on a 75-foot gallows. But so in verse 11, so Haman took the garment and the horse, he clothed Mordecai and paraded him through the square, crying out before him, this is what is done for the man the king wants to honor. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried off home, mournful with his head covered. So Haman just did not want to even be seen after doing this. And one thing that strikes me here, because we know for a fact, like, the proposal of the Jews all being killed has already been done. The king has obviously no problem with the Jews here, because like he knows Mordecai's a Jew. It says, do this for Mordecai the Jew, which is really weird for me. Like,
That's really weird.
Because you would think, like, oh, this guy's going to get killed anyway. Why don't we just not kill him instead? But we find out later on that I don't even know. The king doesn't even remember any of what Haman done. We find out later in the story, which we'll go over. But the king had no problem with these Jews at all, best I can tell. It was Haman who had the problem. And another thing that kind of struck me, Mordecai was like a hard-working dude, because all this had happened to him, all this parade and stuff, and he went back to work. And then Haman just dipped out to his house. And Haman told his wife, Zeresh, and all his friends everything that had happened. His advisors and his wife Zeresh told him, since Mordecai is Jewish and you have begun to fall before him, you won't overcome him, because your downfall is certain. These people can flip-flop. Yesterday they were making plans for him to kill Mordecai, and now they're like, oh, you had to lead him around on a horse, so you've been bested. Like, I don't understand their thought process. But, I mean, they're not mentally stable, since they're like, you know what you should do? Build 75-foot gallows and hang him. In verse 14, while they were still speaking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and rushed Haman to the banquet Esther had prepared. So I didn't say that last week. She prepared a banquet for them. And the king's like, anything you can have, anything you want to ask for, you can have it. And she's like, if you don't mind, would you like to come to another party? So they rushed. Only Haman and the king were invited, and they just rushed Haman to the banquet. That's it for chapter 6. Going on to chapter 7. If I find my place, I apologize. The king and Haman came to the feast with Esther the queen. Once again on the second day, while drinking wine, the king asked Esther, Queen Esther, whatever you ask, I will give it to you. Whatever you seek, even half the kingdom, it will be done. This is the third time he has asked this question. He asked her the first time. She says, come to a party. He asked her the second time. Come to another party. And the third time, once again, she's not going to answer that. But he asked her once again. And this time, Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor in your eyes, your majesty, and if the king is pleased, spare my life, this is my request, and spare my people, this is my desire. So up until this point, he did not know she was Jewish. All right, so this was all hidden until right now she has opened up and told him what is going on. And in verse 4, for my people and I have been sold to destruction, death, and extermination. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept silent. Indeed, the trouble wouldn't be worth burdening the king. So she said, if it wasn't just all of us end up dying, I probably wouldn't say anything. But this is my only request, is to save my people. And this is like news to the king, which kind of surprises me. This king, he had a bad drinking problem. Through the whole book, we see he has a bad drinking problem. Drinking problems lead to very rash decisions, and this king was full of them. Because his next thing is, verse 5, King Ahasuerus spoke up and asked Queen Esther, who is this? Where is the one who devised such a scheme? He's getting upset now. He's like, who's trying to kill all the Jews, even though he's the one who okayed it? So I gotta imagine, like, because I know they drank afterwards. I have to imagine like he was drunk, or I know he's older, but I don't think he's that old. I'm not sure. In verse 6, Esther answered, the advisor and enemy is the evil Haman. Haman stood terrified before the king and the queen. So he's the only one in this room besides the queen and the king. And the queen just told the king that he's trying to kill her. We just went from Haman having a terrible look on his face because his enemy got gifted. And now he's getting called out for trying to kill the queen that the king really likes. He's having a rough day. Like real bad. And I can't imagine like how, I mean it says he's terrified, but I would say terrified doesn't even describe what Haman's feeling right now, because he knows he is done messed up. He's toast. And verse 7, the king arose in anger and went from where they were drinking wine to the palace garden. Haman remained to beg Queen Esther for his life because he realized the king was planning something terrible for him. So he is begging Esther at this point. I imagine him like down on his knees, like, please do not do this. I am so sorry. I had no clue you were a Jew. Just making, I mean, he didn't know she's a Jew, but he planned on killing a whole nation of people. This dude is a evil dude. If you go on YouTube, the first lesson of Esther, this is our third night of it, it is titled Haman Has Issues. Like, this guy does have them. Verse 8, just as the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet hall, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was reclining. The king exclaimed, would he actually violate the queen while I am in the house? As soon as the statement left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. I don't know what they covered Haman's face is. I like imagine like a bodyguard like with a bag. But I don't know, just like bagging his head and dragging him out. But I don't know. So Haman's begging. Esther is like, she got her statement out, and I think she knew it was done when the king had his reaction and he wanted to help her out. So she's just chilling on the couch.
It says in this that's how that was their custom, to recline on couches while dining.
We need to get some couches around the dinner tables. We've been doing this wrong. Forget the hard wooden chairs.
Feeding grapes, just.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I have seen that.
That's what this says. It was their custom to recline on couches while
Well, Haman is,
so he's just like pawing at her.
yeah, he's like on the couch at this point with her, and the king does not appreciate that. Get away from his wife. And verse 9, Harbana, I don't know who Harbana is, one of the king's eunuchs, just one of the servants, said, there is a gallows 75 foot tall at Haman's house that he made for Mordecai, who gave the report to save the king. The king said, hang him on it. They hung Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's anger subsided. So, in a 24-hour stretch here, Haman has went from being the top dog to preparing gallows for Mordecai, to having to parade Mordecai around, to being hung on his own gallows. Like, Haman just hit like the hardest Uno reverse card in the world. And it hit him hard. So Haman is gone at this point.
All I kept thinking was that escalated quickly.
It very quickly. So that's the moral of the story, kids. Don't be mean. No, I'm joking.
You get what you.
You will get hung. Incorrect, but
On a 75-foot gallows.
yes,
You will reap what you sow.
that's true. So chapter 8. Chapter 8 is, in my opinion, like I would like to know what Julie finds in there. I don't really think the Jews were right in what they did here, but maybe they were. I don't know. But you guys can see what you think. In chapter 8, the same day King Ahasuerus awarded Queen Esther the estate of Haman. So congratulations, Haman, you lost everything and now you lost your property as well. The enemy of the Jews. Mordecai entered the king's presence because Esther had revealed her relationship to Mordecai. The king removed his signet ring he had recovered from Haman and gave it to Mordecai, and Esther put him in charge of Haman's estate. So he is now running Haman's property. I mean, Mordecai got everything Haman had. Verse 3, then Esther addressed the king again. She fell at his feet, wept, and begged him to revoke the evil of Haman the Agagite and his plot he had devised against the Jews. The king extended his gold scepter towards Esther, so she got up and stood before the king. So she went before the king again. The king let her in. So I guess he hadn't fixed the whole situation yet.
He can't. It was the law of the Medes and the Persians, which is the same law that, like, I think that was used when Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. He cannot revoke it. It stands. He cannot change it.
Okay. Noted. Verse 5, she said, if it pleases the king, and I have found favor before him, if the matter seems right to the king, and I am pleasing in his eyes, let a royal edict be written, let it revoke the documents that scheming Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, wrote to destroy the Jews who are in all the king's provinces. For how could I bear to see a disaster that would come on my people? How could I bear to see the destruction of my relatives? So she's just asking him, hey, can you change this around? Because I would rather not see my people die. In 7, King Ahasuerus said to Esther, the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, look, I have given Haman's estate to Esther, and he was hung on the gallows because he attacked the Jews. Write in the king's name whatever pleases you concerning the Jews. Seal it with the royal signet ring. The document written in the king's name and sealed with the royal signet ring cannot be revoked. So, if that's the case, how are they changing it? Because I didn't know that.
Keep reading.
Keep reading.
I honestly wasn't listening to what you just read because I was reading ahead, but the answer lies ahead.
On the 23rd day of the third month, that is the month Sivan, the royal scribes were summoned. Everything was written exactly how Mordecai commanded for the Jews to the satraps. I don't know what a satrap is. It's some kind of government official. The governors
Oh,
and
remember it was like a lieutenant or something.
yeah.
Figured that out last time.
The governors and the officials of the 127th provinces from India to Kush. The edict was written for each province in its own script, for each group in its own language, and the Jews in their own script and language. Mordecai wrote in King Ahasuerus' name and sealed the edicts with the royal signet ring. He sent the documents by mounted carriers who rode fast horses, bred in the royal stables. So they're getting these letters out to everyone as quick as possible. They got 127 different provinces to get them out to. The king's edict gives the Jews in each and every city the right to assemble and defend themselves, to destroy and kill and annihilate every ethnic and that's a word.
What word?
Provincial army hostile to them, including women and children, and take their possessions as spoils of war. This would take place on a single day through all the provinces of King Ahasuerus on the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar. So, what I take from this here, they told them, because they was going to get killed on this one day, it was like the 13th of December or something, you'd have to go back and look. I know it was in December. Best I can tell, they give them the ability to defend themselves. If any of the people, yes?
No, continue. What happened? Yeah.
If any of the people decided to go through with the plan and try to take out the Jews, best I can tell, they was allowed to defend themselves here, because it said, it give them the right to assemble and defend themselves. And we'll see kind of what they did with that later on. But what was he gonna add?
I think it put the army on their side too.
Yes.
Like the king's army was now going to fight with the Jews.
Yeah. I believe that's right.
That's what this is saying.
And so they were allowed to defend themselves, but they took it a step forward, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. That's where I think they might have went into the wrong, in my opinion, but I don't know. Verse 13, a copy of the text issued as law throughout every province was distributed to all the people, so the Jews could be ready to avenge themselves against their enemies on that day. The carriers rode out in haste on their royal horses at the king's urgent command. The law was also issued in the fortress of Susa. Mordecai went from the king's presence clothed in royal purple and white with great gold crown and a purple robe of fine linen. The city of Susa shouted and rejoiced. So, like I said, they're able to defend themselves now, and they are rejoicing because they're not going to get killed now. In verse 16, and the Jews celebrated with gladness and joy and honor in every province and every city, wherever the king's command and his law reached, the joy and rejoicing took place among the Jews, the celebration and a holiday. And many of the ethnic groups, so the people who were not Jews, this kind of cracked me up. So the Jews are allowed to defend themselves, and they do not want to be anyone in the Bible who messed with the Jews. It never really worked out. Very few times, and in the end, it didn't even work out for them. But and many of the ethnic groups of the land professed themselves to be Jews because they feared the Jews, or the fear of the Jews had overcome them. So I guess if you can't beat them, join them. Like, I am a Jew as well. It's like, I don't think you were. But
Anybody can join the Jewish faith though.
yeah. But that kind of cracked me up. And I think I'd get your opinion and your book's opinion, anyone's opinion. I feel like it could have ended there. They didn't have to do all the stuff that they did. Because they got the right to defend themselves. and I read nothing where anyone attacked them. But we go on to chapter 9.
Well, it wasn't the day yet.
No, but I still got nothing where someone attacked them. I feel like it was said so. In chapter 9, I mean, they got people who are scared and trying to join them. In chapter 9, the king's command and the law went into effect on the 13th day of the 12th month, so I was correct, the month of Adar, on the day when the Jews' enemies had hoped to overpower them. Just the opposite happened. The Jews overpowered those who hated them. So I don't know if they attacked them or they just did not like the Jews.
Well, and they were captives.
Yeah,
So they may have just been gaining their freedom.
that's true. They could have been. That's a good point. In verse 2, in each of the king Ahasuerus' provinces, the Jews assembled in their cities to attack those who intended to harm them. Not a single person could withstand them. Fear of them fell on every nationality. So these people did want to attack them, but I don't know if that was before this law had come out or when Haman's law had come out. All the officials of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the royal civil administrators, aided the Jews because they feared Mordecai. Mordecai is some kind of like, he had big plans and all this stuff. Like he was some kind of military mind. For Mordecai exercised great power in the palace, and his fame spread throughout the provinces as he became more and more powerful. The Jews put all their enemies to the sword, killing and destroying them. They did what they pleased to those who hated them. So they pretty much went through absolutely destroying anyone who wanted to stand against them at all. Someone's getting chewed out. We got verse 5. The Jews put all their enemies to the sword, killing and destroying them. They did what they pleased to those who hated them. In the fortress of Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men, including... There's a whole lot of names here. Bear with me for just a second. Including Parshandatha, Dalphon, Aspertha, Poratha, Adalia, Aradatha, Parmashta, Arasiah, Aradiah,
Hope you guys are taking notes for your future children.
and
Definitely.
Vasitha. So if anyone can name any of their children these names, thank you. They killed those 10 sons of Haman. Killed these 10 sons of Haman's son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. However, they did not seize any plunder. On the day of the number of people killed in the fortress of Susa was reported to the king. The king said to Queen Esther, in the fortress of Susa, the Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men, including Haman's 10 sons. What have they done in the rest of the royal provinces? Whatever you ask will be given to you. Whatever you seek will also be done. So I don't know if the king took offense here a little bit. Like, you've killed a lot of people here. What have you done in the other places? But he didn't tell her not to. And I'm not sure what it is there. Esther answered, if it pleases the king, may the Jews who are in Susa also have tomorrow to carry out today's law. And the bodies of Haman's 10 sons be hung on the gallows. The king gave the orders to this be done. So a law was announced in Susa, and they hung the bodies of Haman's 10 sons. The Jews in Susa assembled again on the 14th day in the month of Adar and killed 300 men in Susa, but they did not seize any plunder. So they're going through, just tearing up Jack, killing people, but they're not taking anything with them. And it's very specific to tell us that. But if we go through, I don't think I'm going to read it all because this is a whole lot of repeating after this. Because you're just going to go see through, they're going to go through, kill a bunch of people, kill a bunch of people, kill a bunch of people, kill a bunch of people. At one point, there is a number where they killed 75,000 people.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So they meant business here, and they ended up making a holiday and stuff. So I'm going to stop there with the whole reading because at this point it's getting very repetitive. But I just wanted to get to the 75,000.
A holiday about killing people?
I don't think it was about killing people, because if that's it, you could say a lot of U.S. holidays are about killing people. I think it was more the fact that they got out of the whole all the Jews dying, and they got away from being slaves and stuff, and kind of got out from under that power. So a couple weeks ago, Jesse asks in class, he said, so what do I take from this story? Esther is kind of a weird book because it never once talks about God. It never mentions God. And we've kind of discussed that the Jews had gotten away from God best we can tell. And they did stuff just kind of out of character, just because it's kind of what they thought they needed to do, but they never mentioned the God. At one point they were not feasting, but fasting. And like trying to help themselves out of the situation they were in. It just really got them nowhere. And just several points. I'm just going to highlight a few points and call it a night. What can I take from the story of Esther? One thing Julie pointed out that I missed on the first class. We have the king who made all these rash decisions and just made these decisions that he later on, some of the time, you can tell he regretted. Or he didn't even know about them and he made them out of anger. So number one thing you can take from it, calm down before you make some decisions. I mean, I don't know, you guys out and about, I don't know who has tempers, who doesn't have tempers. But there are some things you can do whenever you have a temper and you flare up, and you can make some stupid choices during that time, or tell people some stupid things that you later on feel like an idiot over. And you'll think 10, 15 minutes down the time, he was like, man, that was really mean, or that was really stupid. So one thing there, it's not quite exactly what they was going for. A big tip to you guys that you can take from Esther is think about it before you say it. And especially if you're in a bad mood and upset. It will save you a lot of time and a lot of upset people in your life. Big thing here, I know you guys have all heard it. Stay away from alcohol. It did not get the king anywhere here at all. It just gave him some dumb decisions. And most of the time he didn't even remember them. It will only get you into trouble. And I know you hear it from everybody. You will hear it from me. But it's the honest truth. Nothing good comes out of it. People go out and party and drink, and they come home with hangovers and feel like trash. Boy, wasn't that awesome. You have Esther, who was able to be brave and stand up for something she believed in, what was her people. There's a lot of times when it comes to being Christian, especially at your age, that we get scared to stand up for Jesus, and we try to just remain quiet about it. And sometimes that feels like the easier decision because, like I've always told you guys, people didn't like Jesus back then. They don't like Jesus now. Another thing I had, and I don't remember what it is now. I had it, and now it's gone. I don't know. It'll come back here in a second. But that's it for the breakdown of Esther. And I don't know if we'll start next week or the following week. It should get pretty interesting, I do believe. But we're going to start breaking down the story of Jesus here pretty quick. It's going to take a while. The story of Jesus is very long. But we're going to break it down in little chunks and kind of think about it. And I know some of you guys are watching The Chosen in Sunday school right now. I guarantee you The Chosen will have stuff that I don't have, and I will have some stuff and ideas that the chosen does not have. It will not be super the same thing. So I hope to see you guys there for that. The other point that just popped back in my head was obviously Haman. You can take from Haman, you get what you try to do to others. I mean, if I'm going to be mean to people all the time, I'm going to probably get mean results back. I mean, the golden rule, we've all heard it. Treat others like you want to be treated. Haman got that to a T. Like, oh, I want to hang other people. Congratulations, you got hung. But another thing I took from Haman, I don't remember what point. Does anyone remember what I said about Haman? I took a point from Haman last week. I can't remember it now. If I had a point from Haman's perspective. I guess it wasn't that good a point. If you want, that's a teaser. Go back and look out on YouTube. But that's another big thing though. I mean, you gotta have, especially as a Christian, you have to have the mentality of how am I going to treat this person or whoever it is. Haman did not like the way he was treated. It didn't work out for him because that drove him nuts. And you can take that from our perspective as well. There are going to be people out in this life that don't treat you exactly how you want to be treated. Especially for you guys who are working, especially in places like Walmart. Because there are some customers that are going to treat you how you don't want to be treated. And fast food, and when you're serving, and I know you guys will tell me, it's just someone at Walmart. It's just someone I'm serving food to. I probably won't see them again, or I won't really ever know them. You never know how you treat someone, how it might change their life. I mean, if someone's having a bad day and they lash out at you and you don't lash out back, or you don't talk back to them, they're going to see something different there, and they might not tell it to you, but you'll probably put a thought in their head about what was different there, and you never know what kind of lives you can change. There's been plenty of lives changed from random employee, customer situations that probably should never have happened, but they happen. Same thing goes for if you're in school, or if no matter if it's college or normal school, to work. So think about how you treat people and what situations that can put you in when it comes to serving Jesus. I mean, if you don't want to share Jesus, I guess it doesn't matter. But as a Christian, if you don't want to share Jesus with people, you might want to think about what your priorities are in life. Because they should definitely be letting other people know about Jesus. And in some situations, that is a scary thing. It's like I said, people don't like Jesus, and if you share them to the wrong people, those people will not like you. Other than that, go ahead and bow your heads for me, guys. So, we finished up this story, and I know that it got a little repetitive at the end, but the whole story of Esther, we went through, and my questions tonight, are somebody raise your hand as always if you want to commit yourself. I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I took out of Esther that I just explained. And I want to know if any of you have situations where you need to do this better. I will gladly pray for anyone who raises their hand. But my first question is, you have a problem when it comes to being a Christian and sharing Jesus, and you have a problem with this whole bravery thing. Esther got stuck where she did not want to try to help the Jews out. She got pretty comfortable where she was, and it took some pushing and prodding from her cousin to actually get her to step up and help them out. And you know that you've gotten kind of docile and hesitant, and you don't share Jesus with people like you should because you're kind of comfortable where you are, and no one's upset you, and you know Jesus, and that's good enough for you. and you want to change that about you. You want to be someone who wants to share Jesus with them. When you share Jesus with someone, and if they actually get Jesus, you just change the life forever, right there. And you want to be someone who actually wants to do that and commit to that, and you know you need that more in your life, go ahead and raise your hand for me. Keep them up for just a second. You can lower them. My next question is, maybe you work out in public, like I was talking, or you go to school in public, and as a Christian, maybe you're not to the point where you're sharing Jesus with others, but you just want to be something there, an image that is different, that kind of points to Jesus. It's not all about, I have to tell everyone about Jesus. Just being different points people to Jesus. But you get into situations where you might lose your temper or lash out at people, and you know that needs to change in your life, because I guarantee you it's probably causing you some problems anyway if that's the situation. I guarantee it's not pointing people to Jesus. But you want to be that different person that stands out and treats others better, even better than you want to be treated. You want to treat others to the best of your abilities. Go ahead and raise your hand for me. Keep them up for just a second. All right, Laura. And my last question goes to my others who, this kind of, or not my others, but everyone, that you have a problem of making these rash decisions and not thinking about what you say, and you make decisions just on the fly, and you know you need to slow down a little bit and think about it, and just be more careful in your life, whether you're upset or angry, or maybe you're just so happy and you're making decisions on the fly that probably aren't the best for you. But you just need to slow down in life and think more and go to Jesus more on these decisions. I mean, there are decisions in your life that Jesus will help you through with. And if you think about Jesus before you talk to others, you're going to show Jesus to others. If you think about Jesus before you make decisions, Jesus will be in your decisions. But you have a problem with that, like whether it be a temper or whatever, and you want help with that and you want to commit yourself to that, go ahead and raise your hand for me. Keep them up for just a second. All right, Laura. Guys, I appreciate you being here. I know tonight was not the most entertaining lesson, but I appreciate you guys being here, and next week we'll start a brand new thing. It should be great. And just know that me and Julie loved each one of you, and if you guys ever need anything, just know you can come to us with whatever you got. It won't go no farther than us. Lord, thank you for all the blessings you've given us. Just guide and direct each one of us. Bless the ones who raise their hand that know they need to share you more and they want that in their life. They know they've gotten to more of a place where they're sitting still, or they want to move forward and share you. Bless the ones who raise their hand that make rash decisions and they need to think about you and put you in more of their decisions, Lord. Help them out. Bless the ones who just want more of you in their life. And like I said, just in every corner of their life, Lord. Bless the ones who want to act different towards other people. Even when it's tough, Lord, they want to show you in those situations when they're being just in hard situations and attacked, Lord. Just guide and direct each one of us that are here tonight. Bless all the prayer requests that were given earlier and the unspoken, Lord. Use us and direct us. Thank you for everything you've done. In Jesus' name, amen. So I have a really random snack tonight. I apologize if you hate it.